Hi, this is Joseph Banta. I'm one of the organizers of the Nashville Mobile Development User Group. This is our third meeting of our Android study group for 2016. We're doing the Android for Beginners study course from Udacity. We have sponsorship by Google. And I'm about to start my presentation. That's about it. Just a second. Hey guys, Joseph Banta, Android Study Group. You know it, you've been here, most of you have anyway. This is our third meeting for going over the Udacity Android Development for Beginners class. Hopefully everybody's progressing through the content by now and hadn't had a whole lot of difficulty with it. The difficulty is why we're here. If you do have questions, let's bring them up. Let's talk about them. Let's see what's going on. Otherwise, we've got time to go through the videos and time to review some of what we've done already. First things first, as you know, I usually hold the raffle, but this week I forgot to grab anything for that. So all I've got is a partially used Exxon gift card, which doesn't really come out very well. So we're going to skip that. So no raffle this week, unfortunately, unless somebody decides they want to, donate something.
No plural site?
I think the plural site's in my other car. Yeah. My other car. So yeah. We'd like to thank our sponsors, BMI, my employer, where we are sitting. They donate the food and the venue sometimes. So this food that we're eating tonight was donated by Google. We thank Plural Site for providing memberships for people that need it and training for people that want to advance. No raffle, sorry. As I've said a few times, we had that Nashville Tango Hackathon in September. We did the Bandy Hacks event in October. And then, actually, later in October, we had our cage match, which was mobile development native versus mobile development hybrid versus web. And that was pretty fun. Looking forward, we've been talking, making noise about doing a more advanced study jam. We might not do it under the guise of a study jam. We're probably going to do something maybe Apple-centric next time because it's kind of overdue. We're talking about doing something for iOS or Swift. Somebody's brought up doing Appium for us. That'd be nice too. But we're always looking for speakers and for content. So if you have something you want to talk about, or if you know somebody that has something they want to talk about, let us know. And we'll consider it.
Would you all be interested in a language that's meant to be a live role playing that uses basically English, plain English to program?
Is it?
It's meant for writers.
What does it target?
It's called Reform 7 or Inform 7.
Let's talk after. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, if it's kind of mobile development centric, yeah, but I'm not so sure.
Okay.
We'll talk, okay? As I've mentioned, this is a Udacity curriculum that we're following. It's hosted at udacity.com, and if you go to our meetup site, every event we're having in this series has the link to the curriculum on it. So just follow that link, and then there's a button that says Access Course Materials, and you'll get to it. This course has a pretty simple structure. We're already through building layouts, practice set 1. Tonight, I'm going to go through some of practice set 2 and practice set, lesson 2A and lesson 2B. Depending on if you guys want to go through some of the issues that you might have had going through the content in the last week. If you do, well, that's why we're here. If not, we'll show some videos, whatever. Okay, lesson 1A, views, the text view, image view, a button, the XML syntax, working with an XML visualizer, a very nice tool that I like a lot on Udacity's site. Putting up a text view or an image view in the visualizer, and then the lesson goes through, or at least emphasizes that you have access to the online documentation and you should make use of it. Lesson 1B was view groups, containers that you can use to encapsulate the widgets and put them in groups, put them adjacent to one another, relative to one another, however you want to consider it. The two principal layouts are the linear layout and the relative layout. And of course, being object-oriented, the layouts had the attribute of inheritance. So if you assign an attribute to a parent group, it usually applies to the children widgets in that, widgets in that group. The very nice trick of layout weight, which allows you to have a component fill up the remainder of its parent view if it's not already allocated. That's the if. Last week we went through the end of practice set 1. Installing the JDK in Android Studio we kind of handled offline because that's a long process. But then we jumped through the Hello World application that they demonstrate in the curriculum. In that practice set, they talk about tailoring the look and feel of each view, and they get started running the app on a phone or an emulator. Tonight, and maybe this coming week for you guys if you haven't already done it, actually, no pressure here, anybody, but has anybody gone straight through the course and already done? Anybody just do that? Has anybody gone on to lesson 2A or lesson 2 and beyond? Okay, that's okay. I'm just kind of wondering. No pressure. Has anybody that was here had trouble going through lesson 1 or practice set 1? And
well, on the practice set, I couldn't get my Samsung 3 connected with the USB, and I'm trying to figure out what launching the emulator.
We can hopefully get that figured out tonight. I mean, it's stuff like that always comes up, always. So we'll hopefully get that figured out. I mean, I can't promise you that everybody will sit around your computer and solve it for you, but somebody will, and it's not. It's usually something simple. There's usually a setting you have to enable debugging. Did you do that on your phone? And you let's see what else. Sometimes when you plug in your phone, it asks you if you want to enable debugging for this PC. Did you see that dialog? Okay, well, if you didn't see that dialog, that definitely will stop anything from happening. Another warning, it could also be your cable. Is the cable one that came with the phone?
No, it was another one.
Okay, well,
I ran out of time. I was busy working.
we can, I mean, I'll donate you a cable for the meeting and we can see if this one works because it seems to work with every other device I've used. But things like that always come up. Anybody else have anything like that they didn't get resolved? Practice through practice set 1. What was that? Oh. Okay. By the way, I've got somebody. I think at least I did have somebody in the Hang On Air. So I see your name is Rob. If you have any questions, Rob, feel free to speak up. That's what we're here for. We're trying to answer questions, get people through the lessons. And I got the speaker turned up, so hopefully it'll work. So I don't know if we ought to go ahead and jump into lesson 2A, or if we ought to go ahead and see if we can solve your problem.
Tried my cable on my computer.
Okay, when you plug the cable in, did you see anything on your computer? Do you see anything on your
There's
phone?
no listing for the devices to choose.
Yeah, we'll let our expert Sue over there solve it.
No, I'm no expert.
Sure you are.
Number one.
Did you get into the content? Did it allow you to? Have you done any programming before? Okay, if you programmed, have you programmed like in Java? Okay, then it'd probably be to your benefit to just bear with it and watch every one of the lessons. Because how about object-oriented? You ever programmed anything object-oriented like C++ or? Okay, then you'll probably understand a lot of the concepts that it'll go through, and I say it'll be to your benefit. Some of it will be kind of repetitive and things you already know, but the
I just need to get.
Yeah.
So now I can get to lesson 2 seconds.
That's fine. That's fine.
Just really let you change the speed. I don't know if I do.
I never actually tried that.
Yeah, I've been watching them at 3 times speed.
And it works fine?
Yeah. I mean, it's all really fast, but
You
it's.
need to change the setting of the speed, to make it slower, like 1.5 or twice as fast.
I saw the setting, but I thought if I did it, it'd probably reflect badly on me because I'm doing this. So I didn't.
It's such a fancy
I changed it from, it started out as relative, I changed it to and then changed the orientation to vertical. Because the orientation is by default.
I would say it's
Yeah, so it's by default. Oh, that's also been how I make it work. So every single new view will be stacked on top of it. Whereas with knowledge, outside it, like below. Network sits down. Straight out.
Because if you think it's
There's almost always a way.
That's why it first.
Alright, so
So,
it's not bad. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, it's just.
Oh, okay, so that way you want to. Oh, sure. I have to give you a bigger screen. Sure. Here, can I rearrange your computer?
It's like some issues with quality, Brexit, and then right at the bottom. Yeah, it's like something that you're looking at like here's something. Is that it? I'm trying to install support. Those are.
I know that since you're listening, so there's like 30 seconds.
Those are.
Figure out what it was.
I'm playing a little store with this and then. It's got a lot of crap all over because it's tons of support at the same time. Yeah, like that's the.
Yeah, I just.
Know about, it's all, you know,
Well, so newer versions of Android that I've gone online.
So I guess.
It's easier. Actually, it's
Just because I buy
the one skills.
100 LEDs.
Is it chili beans or something? Chili beans for 2 days. 2 days.
$4.
Okay, so this is.
That's a lot.
Like it's not chili bean, and that's not, mine is.
This is very helpful. The G is free.
So yours, is just one version, and so I think it's got,
That's what your price. That's cool, that's
so probably offline, or keep it figured out immediately. I'm gonna see what the needs on it is to. Because it might be. Maybe, I mean, so I remember, I've done this a few times, and sometimes, yeah, usually when you plug in,
I just ordered my
so
first.
you have to go in,
I think I'm marking.
Alright, so.
It's good.
What version are you working with?
No, I just put a graphic.
Yeah, I mean, what?
Since there's like marks.
Oh, this, maybe that.
Right, yeah, you sit there and say,
What are you want?
I mean, it's so good.
So it's really true.
I can guess that you're.
Like, I might actually just have two schools.
Yeah, like that. Here's that.
I just have
It puts you to an after form. Design, necessity, engineering, quality, this is the,
So this is your.
that's an environmental.
Is that?
Just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
We
Going
try
all the way
to
to
look
the top,
in-
all the way to the bottom, and just sits us in. Yeah,
That's your, so you're retrieving that from.
So,
So this is internal, so.
if they don't design from our school,
This is.
and it's our.
So you're getting the internal.
So you,
So.
yeah, that's fair.
Did you guys like this?
No, you do, what you did, Bill,
This is something that's.
parents are,
Access already.
yeah, so you have to parent for, and,
Yes.
and that's it's.
Yes.
Alright, so.
Mine is
They're
now,
for their documentation.
that's too bad. You don't get it.
It's way down.
It could have been, it doesn't have to be on the right screen.
We do the same function, certain things. So you can send it all the time. So first two are gonna do it, pass it, and then
That is so annoying.
theoretically, you just say-
Okay, yeah, it's your cable. So, you want to borrow that cable at least during the meeting.
Well, let's give her
Just
a
don't know.
light.
You gotta be in there.
If
No, I need to do that.
the cable she's got doesn't do debugging series. It's one of those things.
I think it works
And,
fine.
I can discover this.
But if yours is on, didn't show up at all, my computer.
So it's like discover.
Different USB cables, I think, have different levels of connectivity on the.
Yeah, it's gonna.
So you have.
I don't know what the.
My cable.
It's gonna.
This is
You don't think I need to see a certain screen where
This is.
Yeah, right now.
Maybe, is it, no, it's just even big. Put my cable on again, it's gonna have.
Well, hey, I didn't have the
Oh, that's not good.
no.
Is that for the-
It's coming up without having to be in there.
It's all the broadcast. That's
It didn't like it.
Yeah. That's good.
I'm really excited to Yes. Okay. Okay, sorry to step away there, but we maybe figured out her problem. It was the cable that she is using. I used my handy dandy Google Glass cable, which is always good for debugging, and that seemed to work. Okay, so if it's a resolution, it's not really, but I use the cable I got with my Google Glass, which has always worked for everything, and it's working now. So it was just her USB cable. Yeah. Yeah. As soon as I plugged mine in, it asked if I wanted to debug from this computer, which is what I expected to say.
That's what my last time. That's not.
I'm trying to mess with the.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna step through lesson 2A and then maybe put on a video or two, and this is just so I'm doing something, you know. Otherwise, I don't need to be sitting around doing nothing. Lesson 2A is about making an app interactive. And it basically, in lesson 2A, we'll be adding handlers to buttons and other things so that when you touch it with your finger or when you drag something around, it actually makes something happen programmatically. There's a number of exercises that interact with that concept, but you inevitably get to the notion of using variables in your program, and stepping through your code with a debugger, so that while the program is actually running on your phone, you can tell it to stop at a preconceived or a preset place, and it will stop there, and you can see the values of all the variables that exist at that point and the state of the device as it is running. You have the notion of binding variables to code, which isn't quite as simple as it is in some frameworks like, I don't know, well, forget it.
Yeah.
And finally, I think it gets down to understanding variable scope. This is probably for JavaScript programmers for whom variable scope is kind of always a constant thing. Like if you define a variable anywhere in the code block, it's defined everywhere. I mean, that's not exactly true, but that's basically true.
That's changing a lot with the new syntax that's coming out. They have two lexically scopes.
And it's going to depend on how, if you declare it as a var or as a var question mark or something like that.
No, you use let and const, and those will put them with, if you declare it inside a function block, then it's
Okay.
always good.
I'll disclaimer. I'm not a JavaScript programmer. I mean, I've done it and I can do it, but there's definitely 1,000 people in every room better than me at JavaScript.
Just you're describing the phrase binding variables to code. Would the concept be better described as binding visual elements to code?
Yes. Yeah. This is actually my wording. I put that on there. So yeah, it's just like Tillman pointed out. The notion that the lesson covers is not necessarily putting, assigning variables to code. That doesn't actually make any sense. It's visual elements to variables. So yeah, that's poorly phrased, and forget I said it because it doesn't make any sense. 2B, still making the app interactive using nested view groups. It actually goes through a pretty useful exercise of having you draw out a view hierarchy diagram so that in order to get an understanding of the way container layout works, you draw things out graphically in an itemized fashion, and then you can determine where things ought to be and how they ought to look, and it helps you get a feel for the way that you ought to design your, you ought to implement your layout, not design it. Precise view arrangement so that you, like it goes through the concept of padding and margins, making sure that your views are placed on the screen exactly where you intend them to be. And one thing that would get pretty much any, it still gets me sometimes, is how to declare and concatenate and use string variables. So I'll go ahead and show some of those videos, unless there's something else that somebody else would rather talk about. Anybody? Really? I mean, this is supposed to be democratic. So if you guys want to talk about something else, let's do it. Otherwise, I'm going to show something from lesson 2.
I want to say something about layout real quick.
Go ahead.
I think the idea is to learn how to trust the platform to render buttons when you need them, as opposed to if you were working graphic design, you're saying that kind of WYSIWYG control. Getting rid of that instinct and learning how to use the framework, especially the weight controls, to get the layout. It takes a minute to kind of get used to it, but it's more worth going over those lessons and spending time with it. You're still challenged by it. It's a different role. I mean, when I first started, you position everything really precisely, but learning how to let the framework take all that from you, especially because there's so many different form vectors you're going to be displaying. It's definitely worth digging into and making sure you conquer that. You spend a lot of time later on debugging it.
I have a question. So it's not a topic of displays, but like, are there string interpolation methods? Like instead of like typing out the space end quote plus variable and then plus strings. So are there like template strings or anything like in Java where you can put the variable inside of a string, kind of as you type it by using some kind of like, for instance, like $sign something or hash bracket, whatever.
Not the way that you're thinking about it. I don't think so. I mean, I think the short answer is no, but there's probably a much longer answer. I mean, you can use reflection to do things like that. You know what reflection is? Reflection is one of the properties of languages like Java, where you can look at variables and the class of that variable and use that class to do extra work. It's one of the properties of the language that's really useful. But to nest variables inside of a string that's kind of something that you can't really do with the language, just because of the way it is. And if somebody else has knowledge other than that, go ahead and speak up. But my understanding is no. So this is what I was expecting you to see earlier. Like when you click the menu bar of which lesson you're looking at, it should show you all the lessons in the course. And maybe it's just your browser version. I don't know. I've got it. Oh, you do? Okay.
I won't tell you why.
Because you're in a different browser, maybe? Oh. So you don't tell me. You said you would. So I'm going to show some of the videos from lesson 2, like I promised.
So we're done with lesson 1, right? So if this is
Too loud? Too quiet? Is that all right?
Now right here at the end of lesson. What I want to do is I want to take all of this thing together and not focus too much on lesson 1 anymore. And that's okay.
Yeah, we can move lesson 2 over.
Okay. So let's say all of this is lesson 2.
Yeah.
What should be some of the big ideas in lesson 2?
Well, I think we can split it up into 2 parts.
Okay.
What do you think we should do for the first?
Well, right here, we should add some interactivity to the app, right? So say there's a button on an app, you press the button, boom, something happens.
Yeah, that sounds good. And then in the second part, we can go into details of what exactly is happening and also learn about variables and methods.
So all of the technical jargon that sounds like magic right now, but will not be magic at the end of the lesson.
Exactly. And we can do this by building up a new app.
Wait, what? We're making a new app in lesson 2?
Yeah, it's going to be a copy ordering app.
Wait, can we call it just Java?
Okay, I get it. Yeah, let's get started. Let's begin by creating a new project for our app. It will be similar to the Hello World app that you created with Lila early on in practice set 1. See if you can remember how to set it up on your own. Use these settings for app name, package name, and etc. so that your code will match ours for the rest of this lesson. Once it's done being created, make sure you can run the app on your device. It should look something like this. The name of the app is shown at the top in the app bar. Below that, we have the words Hello World this lesson. Once it's done being created.
So if I actually do that, sitting right here, right in front of you, and make something break, we can go here. Go into Android Studio, say File, New, and use the settings that it laid out there. Just Java, android.example.com. Where's my dialog? New project. Android.example.com. Common.example.android.justjava. Okay, we're done. And use empty activity template. Minimum int SDK of API 15. Empty activity template. I think we've got it. That's it. So hopefully, when we run that, it looks like
Here's how you create a new project in Android Studio. First, open up Android Studio. Then click Start a new Android Studio project. As you mentioned in the quiz, set the app name to be just and standard, which is API level 15 templates for creating a new activity. Let's just choose rank activity template. You can simply change this setting to be 21 so that the device preview here will be using API level 21. You also click the same device that you belong to so this dialog can keep popping up. Then hit OK. And this is what it looks like running on the device. It says just Java across the top in the app bar and says Hello World down here. This is what we're going to cover in lesson 2. First, we're going to show the quantity and then an order button. Then we're going to show the price as well. Next, we're going to add a plus and a minus button so that when you tap on either of these, the quantity changes. After that, we're going to take these buttons and rotate them horizontally so they show up like this for the quantity figure. And lastly, we're going to adjust the way the price is displayed, and we'll also move the order button down to the bottom of the screen. This is what the app is going to look like by the end of lesson 2. Along the way, we're going to learn about Java concepts like variables and data types. That way, when we click on the plus or the minus button, we'll be able to update the quantity. Or if we click on the order button, we'll be able to calculate and display the price here. Now we're going to just focus on the first stage of our app and then slowly build up from there. I'd like you to plan how you're going to build up this layout. The app displays quantity, 0, and then an order button. If you're stuck, try going through the 3 steps for creating a layout that we went over in the practice set. Select the views you want, position the views, and then style the views. In this planning stage, I'll ask for you to write a couple words for each of these. It's generally a good habit to plan out how you're going to build something before you actually go and code it. Otherwise, you might get lost in all the details of the code. Which views do we need here? Do we need text views, image views, etc.? Step 2. For positioning the views, which view group will be the root view? Feel free to add other comments about how to position these views. Finally, for step 3, we need to style the views. Is there anything you need to do here? Write your comments below on how we need to change the views so that they look like this.
So on here, I just gave the brief answers that which views go into this view, into this layout, and the ones I see are a text view here, and a button. The layout that I would choose for this layout would be a linear layout because it's just one widget on top of another widget, or below another widget and below another widget. You could do this with any layout as we've seen, but that's the way I would choose.
Looking closely at this screenshot, we have 2 text views and 1 button. The reason why I say we have 2 text views is because they're styled a little bit differently. For example, the text color is different for each of these. Let's fill that in for this first step. The second step is position the views. The question asks which view group will be the root view. From this screenshot, it looks like the views are shown in a vertical column, like this. So from what we learned in lesson 1, a vertical linear layout would be a smart choice. So I wrote down that we need a linear layout as a parent view group with 3 children views, and we'll set the orientation to be vertical.
So she was a little bit more verbose than I was.
Here, that's okay. That would work as well, but it would just be a lot more code to have to define view IDs for each of these and then position them relative to each other. So for our use case, a vertical linear layout would be a little more concise and easier to use. Lastly, for step 3, we want to style the views. For the most part, these views look pretty standard, but we can make some slight adjustments. For example, we notice that the quantity header here is in all caps. The quantity number down here is in black font color as opposed to the gray default color. We also notice that there's a little bit of space in between these views, which can be accomplished with padding or margin. Now that we've thoroughly planned this out, go ahead and build
one of the styles you can apply to a text view, I think it's called text all caps. And it just texts whatever text, no matter what the text is, it shifts it to uppercase.
Layout in your app. You'll need to find and modify the activity_main.xml file. The activity_main.xml file should already be open when you first create your project. If it's not already open, you can find this file under the layout folder, under res, under app, in the project view of your app, which lists all the files in your app. The design pane is open by default.
So it's lowercase text, uppercase A, uppercase T text. For the cap, all caps.
Let's see. The way I would set it would be go into your designer.
Yeah, it's a boolean. So yeah, lowercase text and capital. Yeah.
Let's go to one that has a. So if I've got this text view here, and I set his style to text all caps. And by the way, if you can see how I did that, because I'm not a magician, I don't remember things off the top of my head. If I would have had to Google it. If you just start typing all, it shows you what might match that. Yeah, or caps. Actually, that's probably a better candidate. Just type caps. It shows you what it can be, what you might be trying to type, and so you select text all caps, and it shows you the potential values, which are true or false, or you can set it to an Android constant. In this case, we'd set it to true or whatever. So if I did that, and then looked at the layout, you see this start survey turned all capitals.
That's the text field, the buttons are by default right now.
Where you can drag and drop widgets from this
Sorry.
palette here over onto
Let me
your
do.
app. However, I want you to use the text pane so you can write your XML here. At any point when you modify your XML, you can always select this content and reformat it. Across the top of Android Studio, you should see a bunch of menu items. Click on Code, and then you'll find an option to reformat code. And here's a keyboard shortcut if you're on Mac. You can reformat the code and selected text is fine. Click Run, and then it automatically reformats your code to fix the spacing in the tabs. You can also select Rearrange Code. It modifies the order of the attributes here so that it's in preferred order according to Android code style guidelines. And now the code is a lot easier to read in this format. If you want a preview of what this code looks like, you can click on the Preview button here. And this shows what it would look like on a device. But this isn't a substitute for running it on your device, so you should always run it on your device periodically. Once you build out this layout, please also assign a view ID name on this second text view here that displays the 0. Give it a view ID name of @+ID/quantity_text_view.
And she kind of skips over it here, but the reason you would assign an ID parameter to a view in a layout is so that when you want to manipulate that view in code, in your Java source code, you can actually find it in your layout with that ID. So, I mean, you'll see later as it gets onto it that you call this find view by ID function in on the view object, on the parent view object, and it'll descend through its view hierarchy and find the first view that has that ID. And
like CSS, where you also have classes.
Yes.
Where are you defining that?
In your layout file, like when you say in your layout file you have these attributes that are all assigned to the views. So on this one image view, the ID of it is image view. So then in source code, you would go find view by ID, and the text you would use would just be what comes after the ID slash. So it's image view.
Do you have your build file there?
Which one?
Under build, start the R file on your build. Is your build folder right there?
Yes. What do you want to see?
Is it under projects? The project folder? I mean.
The you want to see the R?
Yeah, I was gonna just, it doesn't make sense. If you go under, instead of Android view.
I think I have to
No, just instead of Android.
project view.
Go up. Right there.
Hang on. Sorry.
Here.
Yeah.
Lower Android.
I just learned this the other day. I'm not that smart, really.
Probably smarter than me.
Project view. So there's different views you can see. If you go onto your build. I don't know what kind of project you have here. Oh, wait.
Yeah, it's probably under app.
Oh, app build, right. Generated. So what happens? I don't know. Here's this. What happens is you have this big R file.
And yeah, the R is just your resources that are defined from your strings and your layouts.
Oh, I don't know where it is. Anyway,
R.
I know, but
R.
where's the big R?
Where's your pirate name?
Oops, sorry, cancel. Well, anyway, maybe we're taking too much time. But
Well, probably what you can do is go into the source code. Look here, like in one of your view activities, find a place where R is referenced.
and then pop it open.
Yeah, and then R dot. Come on, where is it? There's a few R's in
Anyway,
there.
you know what I'm talking about.
I do. I don't usually open. Oh, there it is. Android R. No, that's. Here we go. R.id.
Yeah.
So then right click and say go to declaration. Is that what you're looking for? Oh no. That's the XML file.
Yeah, no, go back to where you were. And then just hit RID, then hit this right here.
This one?
Yeah.
Go to what? Implementation? Probably implementation.
No, just right click. Yeah, there it
That.
is. Yeah. So this right here is your r.job. So basically what happens when you build is it generates this. Hey guys.
Zip.
What happens when you actually build your project, every time you change your project and build it, what happens is you generate this enormous R file, and that's what this is showing here. If you just stream down it, I mean, it's basically all it does is generate these little ID tags. So whenever you do an ID, when you assign an ID, it just comes and puts it in this big, huge file. It's just it's an int variable. It's just a number variable.
So there's the R.java contains an ID structure that lists all the IDs you assign. It also contains a color structure that contains all the colors that you might use, that you might have used in your UI. It's a drawable structure. And then it has this dimension structure that contains all the spatial dimensions that you defined. And there's the colors.
So basically what happens is every time you do an ID, it puts it in this file, so that anytime you want to refer back to it somewhere, like setting a value to that particular, where it shows that 0, when you want to set it to an actual value, you give it that ID, and then Android goes through and says, okay, well, what matches that ID? So it picks it out of this file, and it knows what it's attached to.
But you won't ever have to touch this file. This is auto-generated from your styles and values.
So that's what the ID is for.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Use this exact name so that it will match our code later on. Remember that we learned how to assign IDs to views in lesson 1. This example was for a relative layout, where we had a dinner party for our best friends and our frenemies. Also, the reason why we give this view an ID but not the others is because we'll want to later refer to this text view so that we can update it to increase or decrease the font. For styling the view, there's a couple small changes. This text view here should have a text size of 16 SP and use a black font color. You can use the black system font color like we showed you in lesson 1, or you can use the black text color, which we've included below. There's also 16 BP of space in between each of these views. I know that this is the first time that you're going to be adding a button to your XML layout. This is a really great opportunity for you to practice your Google search skills in order to figure out how to add a button to your layout. If you really get stuck, you can check the hint in the instructor notes. As you build this up, periodically run the app on your device to check that it's working as expected. When you're done with all of this, answer this question. What happens when you click on this button?
Nothing.
To build this layout, I open up the activity-main.xml file. I know that I need a vertical linear layout to put each of these views in a vertical column. So I'm going to first change the relative layout into linear layout. Immediately, it shows an error saying that the opening tag does not match the closing tag. We can just copy this over and then fix it down here. Now the tags match. Next, I can add in the view. First, I have a quantity text view. So I'm going to take this text view and then change the text inside to quantity. Next, I have a text view that says 0. so I can copy the first text view and paste it below it. I'm going to change it so the text says 0 to match the screenshot here. The last child in this linear layout is a button. We haven't added a button before in our layout, so let's Google search that. If you open up a browser, you can search for button Android. This first link looks good. It's a developer.android.com site. And here's the documentation for button. We can ignore most of this text here. We scroll down to read the class overview. It talks a little bit about some Java code, which we haven't learned yet. So down here, we have some XML for a button. We can copy this and see what it does in our code. In our layout, I'm going to add a button below these two text views. I'm going to paste the code from the documentation here. And now, instead of the self-destruct string, I'm going to go for something a little friendlier like order. This last line is not to delete because we don't need it. Cool, so now I should have a quantity text view, a text view that says 0, and an order button. Let's run it on our app to see what it looks like by hitting this green play button. You can see down here that it's still building. Uh-oh, this isn't what we wanted. It appears that our linear layout is actually horizontal instead of vertical. So let's make sure that we add the orientation attribute. I'm going to change this to say Android orientation equals vertical. That should fix the problem. So let's hit run again. Okay, that's better now. The 3 children are showing up in a vertical column. Now we just need to style these views so they look a little bit more like the screenshot we were given. From this screenshot, we see the quantity text view is in all caps. In lesson 1, we learned about an attribute called Android text all caps, and it's showing up here in autocomplete. If it shows up like this, you can just hit enter, and it automatically adds it in the code here for you. We set that value to be true because we want it in all caps. The reason why it's better to use this attribute to capitalize the text is because if we ever want to change the UI so that quantity is in lowercase like this, all we need to do is just remove this attribute instead of going and changing the text. Next, for this text view that says 0, we should use a text size of 16xp. Let me add that now. And then it shows up an autocomplete suggestion, so I just hit enter, and then I choose 16xp for the value. We also want it to be a black font color. I'm going to use the Android system color for black, which is referred to like this. Cool, that takes care of both the quantity and the 0 text views. The order button is fine as is. It will automatically capitalize the text for you in the button and the height and width of that content. We do, however, need to resolve this vertical space here. We want 16 dp of padding or margin in between the quantity and the 0 text view. We also want 16 dp of padding in between the 0 and the order button. You can implement this in many different ways. I'm just going to choose to add it as layout top margin for this button. And I'm going to add it as a bottom margin for this quantity text view. Feel free to do it a different way as long as it looks the same. The reason why I chose to do a bottom margin and a top margin is because I know that this middle area here is going to change later. We're going to change it to be a quantity picker with a plus and minus button. And I still want to have 16 dp of space between the quantity, title, and the picker. And same for the button. Okay, let's run it again now on our device. Cool, and it looks just like we wanted. The quantity text view is in all caps. The 0 text view is in black font color, size 16xp. And we have the order button here. We also have 16 dp of space in between these two. Good job. Oh, and I almost forgot. The quiz also asks, well, what happens when you click on this button? Well, actually, it does nothing. For now, at least. Keep watching to find out what happens next.
Okay, anybody have any questions on this stuff? I know it's pretty simple, but didn't want to skip over anything. I'm gonna jump over a couple of things here because essentially I wanted to cover this material, like this entire curriculum, in 5 or 6 meetings, and I think we're on our 3rd meeting. So I think it'd be good if everybody got through lesson 2B by the end of next week, and then before next week, excuse me, and then next week we can talk about practice set 2, and then the following week we'll talk about lesson 3A, and the week after that, theoretically, if you have a final project implementation that you want to show off, you'd show that you do that in the 6th week. Did I do that right? So this is 3rd week, 4th week, 5th week, and then the 6th week would be the show off of the final project. The idea with the final project is that we'll try to get things implemented according to the project rubric, which is defined in the curriculum. You'll find it. It gives you the requirements. It's pretty simple. You just have to implement an app that teaches the user 5 things that they may not have known before. And you got to do it in a certain way, but not very particular. Like the last year, we had a very particular way we had to do things, and this year is a lot more simple. My point with going over all this was just that we're so far along, and I want to make sure we stay on track. Possibly next week, I think we don't have this room. The people that run this building have told me that there's something else going on that night, next Tuesday. So I'm contemplating just putting off the meeting and making it happen 2 weeks from today. That way everybody will have plenty of time to go through lesson 2A and 2B, with the ones I'm going over right now, and maybe even jump as far ahead as they want to. And you're free to do that as you like. You just go ahead and take as much time as you like, or just skip ahead as you like. There's no rules in this. This is just for you guys to learn if you can. So let's see, if this is February 23rd, next week is the 1st. If we skip the 1st, and we don't have to, I'm just thinking about it because we don't have this room. We could do that. Maybe that make more sense. That's a good idea. So next week, I'll set up a hangout just like I've got going on right now. Anybody that wants to join can, but we won't have a physical meeting, except for maybe we'll do one at a local coffee shop or something like that if it comes down to people want to do that. But that's a good idea. So maybe we'll skip the 1st. Maybe we'll definitely have some kind of meeting. Then the 8th would be, let's say the 8th will be on lesson or practice set 2, and then the 15th would be lesson 3A, 3B, and the 22nd of March would be showing off your final projects. So that's obviously all this is optional. So if you do choose to do a final project, you'll get in the running for whatever the prize is going to be. And maybe next meeting we have, we'll vote on what those should be. Last year, I think it was Sue's preference that it was quadcopters. So that's what we went with, and that's what the winners got. So we'll talk about that. Think about what you might think would be cool as a prize.
Zero.
That's
They're impossible to get, so that'd be a great prize.
not impossible.
Tomorrow, 9 a.m. I had a limited offering.
Well,
Is that central?
I don't know. What would you guys think about like a Raspberry Pi kit? We've actually given those away before.
Yeah, I love that.
Also, how many people own Chromecasts? Yeah, we
Don't have a strong audio.
See, you on our raffles, a lot of the time we just give away Chromecast because they're a nice, cheap, but kind of cool gift to give away. And I should have had one tonight, but forgot. So yeah, we had given away some Raspberry Pis in the past, and maybe we'll start doing that again because they're nice and easy and cheap. But they're not for everybody. If you're not like a tinkerer, you probably wouldn't care for that.
But if you are, Nash Micro is a user group that really does a lot with Raspberry Pi.
And Nashville Make.
Who's that?
Nashville Make.
Right.
That's why this last
Twos are really nice. You can have general purpose computers.
Yeah, I mean, you can do anything with one of these Raspberry Pis. Like you can have one as a DVR. You can have one that opens and shuts your chicken cage doors at night so that they don't
You
get
use an Arduino for that.
Excuse me, sorry. But you can. I know a guy.
It'd be slower to use a Pi.
I know a guy that uses a Pi to do his chicken coop doors.
If you really want to get the IR both sides, you get the Raspberry Pi to Arduino interface.
Yeah,
And then you turn on a light anytime a coyote or whatever comes
then
around.
you can do the advanced computational things, and then you can do the simple things. It's
That's how people remove Raspberry brain.
So we'll think about Raspberry Pis. Maybe we'll get a really nice starter kit for not starter kit, like a really nice developer kit as the prize for the winner of the best project. Well, I think a nice starter kit you can get for like $75. Right? How much is the Pi Zero, the one you're talking about?
That's $5. But they're like rare. They're really hard to get. So
They're in iPhone territory. They're new. They're awesome.
and they're accessible. They're financially accessible.
The twos are nice though. It's a whole
The
like
big ones, yeah.
Yeah, the zeros have been inaccessible for like 3 months now, so surprisingly.
They've only been around for like 3 months.
But no, generally, 3 months after they're introduced, something is available.
What a Tango.
That's a good point. We could
I
maybe,
don't remember seeing it at Hackathon.
Oh, come on.
What is that? Are you talking about Project Tango?
yeah, Project Tango. There are
I still
probably
haven't seen one or tried one out.
I have there are 3 owners that I know of in this room of Project Tangos, and I've probably got one in my car. If you want to, no, it's dead.
It's a cell phone, right?
No, the one I've got is not a phone. It's a tablet. It's a 7-inch tablet. And that's I think the one you got. Huh? Suited, you don't have one?
We don't have one.
2, excuse me. Okay.
I should.
Okay, we'll come to an upcoming meeting for a demo of Tango. We'll have that.
Yeah, maybe the Project Tango ought to be the prize.
Sweet.
So that's a there's well we probably do judging by peers. So everybody that's at the meeting would vote for the best project. That way you only get one vote for yourself, but that's fine. If you don't want to vote for yourself, then you don't have to. Okay, so
That's right, exactly.
so it's almost 7:30. We probably got time to go through one more video, but
Let's start the next section.
yeah, we can at least we can see what these would be, what these are going to be. Adding button handlers to the buttons, actually modifying code, solving very simple arithmetic problems, adding text views like for the price of your layout, and then that almost demands a variable once you do that, because you're having to calculate something that is based on your view, and keeping all your values in your views which are by definition variables, but they're kind of behind the scenes. It's kind of difficult. So you add variables, and basically in this lesson it starts to go through debugging and how you'll need to develop those skills. And then there's a pretty long interview. I think this is like 11 or 12 minutes long with a Google engineer. And I'm going to Google a week and a half, by the way. And then there's hooking up buttons, using debug mode in Android Studio. Let's see what lesson 2A, 2B is about.
Oh, that's just.
When discussing how to position views in the last quiz, you may have mentioned using a relative layout. I know we did, but I want to introduce you to another way that you can build a layout for our app would be more ideal using nested view groups.
You see that there's a lot less
Nested view groups means
lessons in this
view groups inside
lesson.
other view groups. That way you can build more interesting and complex layouts like these. Let's see how you would build up one of these layouts. Say, for example, you have a vertical linear layout with 3 views, an image view and 2 text views. What if you wanted to overlay some text on top of this image? But with a linear layout, you can't overlap views. But with a relative layout, you can. So we can replace this child with a relative layout instead. Then we can put the image view inside this relative layout. This image view is now aligned to each edge of the parent's relative layout. So there you see an example of a relative layout that's contained within a larger linear layout. You can have many combinations of view groups within other view groups. For instance, you can have a relative layout as the root view for an app. That can contain a couple of views like an image view and 2 text views. You can also add a linear layout as a child of this broader relative layout. This linear layout itself can contain other children, like 2 image views. You can nest as many view groups inside other view groups as you want. However, be careful because the more nesting that you do, the more expensive it will be for your app to lay out on the screen. The relative layout in particular is a very flexible layout, but it can be very complex to calculate the position of each of these views relative to others. So it's recommended to not have too many layers of nesting within a relative layout. I pulled some examples from real-life Google apps to show you some cases where it would be useful to use nested view groups. The Google Now app shows you cards of relevant information based on your current situation, like the current time or current location. If you like a certain team like the Red Sox, good choice, then it can show you the score for the latest game. To build out the layout for this card, you can imagine using a vertical linear layout.
Is that your team?
Because the information is displayed as rows. However, the first item in this vertical linear layout is not just
I thought it was the Knicks or the Yankees.
In fact, we would build this first item as a horizontal linear layout made up of an image view and 2 text views. Same for the second item in this vertical linear layout. We would build it with a horizontal linear layout containing an image view and 2 text views. Another card in the Google Now app shows relevant stocks that you may be interested in. I wish a Google stock was still at that price. Anyway, you can also build out this layout as a vertical linear layout because you can imagine the rows here. Except these middle entries aren't just a single text view, they're made up of multiple text views. For this line item relating to the Google stock price, you could use a horizontal linear layout and fill it with 4 text views. Same for the other stock prices as well. These horizontal linear layouts are children of this broader vertical linear layout. In the Google Play Music app, you can of course listen to music. While this looks like a complicated layout to build, you can actually break it down into smaller view groups that you recognize. This pattern feels like a vertical linear layout with 3 different children. This first child can be built using a relative layout because the views are relative to each other. The second child can also be built using a relative layout because the views are overlapping each other. And this third child here looks like a horizontal linear layout made up of 5 different buttons. Again, we can use nested view groups to build out this screen. This is just one way to build out the layout. You can build it in many other ways as well. In the Google Maps app, earlier we saw that there are detailed pages for individual locations like restaurants. You can't build out this screen with just a single linear layout or a single relative layout. You need to nest a bunch of view groups together. On a broad scale, we can see that the information is almost organized into rows. So we can use a vertical linear layout as the parent view. One child could be this whole layout here, another child could be this row of buttons, another child would be this description, and so on. But within each child, it's not just a single view. We have multiple views. This child in the broader vertical linear layout is made up of 3 individual views. So you can use a horizontal linear layout with equal weights to each view so that they get spread out evenly. This child in the broader vertical linear layout can also be made up of a horizontal linear layout with an image view and a text view. If you keep scrolling this page, you see more information on the restaurant. Again, I can imagine the individual rows of information here. Using a vertical linear layout for all this information still works. And again, some rows are more complex than just a single text view. This row shows a bunch of available times where you can make a reservation, and it's made up of 3 different buttons that you can arrange using a horizontal linear layout. This row of pictures can be built using a horizontal linear layout as well. And actually, within this horizontal linear layout, this first child is not just a single image view. It's an image view with a text view. So you could use a relative layout to build out this first child. So you can see how there can be view groups within view groups within view groups. There's actually more view groups beyond just relative layout and linear layout. There's also frame layout and grid layout. We're not going to have time to cover those in this course, but I definitely recommend that you go out and learn about them on your own, because sometimes those would be better than just using a relative or linear layout.
Okay, I'm gonna stop it there. 7:30 is usually our wrap up time.